Welcome to the Beyond Fat Loss podcast, where we don't just stop at fat loss. You learn all about the good stuff that follows: how to build muscle, how to enjoy more food, and how to stay lean without going to extremes. We're your hosts, Katie and Sean, and today we're going to be sharing our opinions on diet plans.
In this episode, you'll learn the pros and cons of following a diet plan. You'll have a better understanding of where they are most appropriate for you and whether we would recommend them.
Our opinions have changed about diet plans since we first started coaching. So if you've ever wondered whether or not you should be on a diet plan, this should help answer that question for you.
If you enjoy this episode or you'd like to support the podcast, drop us a like, follow, or subscribe on whichever platform you're listening on. You can also tag us on your socials or share it with a friend. If you want to connect with us and see what we get up to on a day-to-day basis, you can find our Instagram links in the description. So pop down there and drop us a follow. You can put some faces to the voices, probably get more benefit from that by putting Katie's face to the voice than putting mine to the voice, but there we are. You can do it if you want. So diet plans. Let's start by giving a quick bit of background. What sort of diet plans will we see in the fitness world?
I think the term I'm most familiar with within the fitness world and always have been is cookie cutter plans.
What's a cookie cutter plan?
When it's one diet that's set out to achieve X results. For example, follow this 21-day template to drop 20 pounds or whatever ridiculous things are out there. That is just one set diet plan that you can follow, which ultimately is just going to put people into a calorie deficit, right? But it's claiming to be this magic diet. If you follow this to the letter, you're going to get an X result.
Yeah, it's the same for everyone, isn't it? It doesn't matter who you are, what height you are, what age you are, what gender you are, how often you move. None of that matters. It's just, this is your diet plan. It's the same for everyone. Normally they have a name, don't they? They have a name in front of them. The carnivore diet, the keto diet, the Atkins diet, the cabbage soup diet, whatever the hell the bloody diet is.
Sometimes it's someone's particular method or approach and
Some made up
something.
name. Yeah. Somebody will decide that they've invented a new form of diet, which is basically just picking and choosing some things to restrict from your diet, which then, if you eat those things on a regular basis, by removing them, you'll be in a calorie deficit, and the coach puts their name on it and calls that their diet. You can basically, I think anyone can make up a diet, couldn't they, really? You could just start removing something from your diet this week, Katie. What's the non-chocolate diet?
Yeah, I think you can fat chance of me signing up for a non-chocolate diet.
Nano diet. Katie lost 6 kilos in 10 weeks by removing nothing but chocolate from her diet. She has also murdered her husband.
Yeah, be careful what you wish for, mate. Careful what you wish for.
So anyway, yeah, these cookie cutter diets, I mean, they work for one purpose. They create restriction. That restriction leads to consuming less calories. It can sometimes work for a period, but that's about all they're good for, really.
And if you're going into that diet with that awareness, then, you know, it can and probably will get you a result, but it's knowing that that's not the main reason you're getting a result per se because of this particular diet. It's because that particular diet is set up to put you into a calorie deficit so that you do lose body fat. I think if you can go into it with that awareness, that is very important. But unfortunately, a lot of people don't go into a cookie cutter plan with that awareness, which can make it hard to transition out of it without feeling like you're absolutely failing or you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, or without having some long-term damaging viewpoints on what particular foods will do for your body fat levels and your body composition. For example, if you do a low-carb diet and you lose weight, then naturally you would assume that it was the carbohydrates that are causing you to maintain or gain weight. But it's not the carbohydrates. It's just the fact that the calories in those carbohydrates are a large bulk of what your total daily intake are. So when you remove those calories from your diet because you cut down on the carbohydrates, then naturally you put yourself into a lower calorie state, quite often in a calorie deficit, and you'll see weight loss. Like, this stuff has been kind of debunked by scientific literature. We know that all calorie deficits work regardless of where the calories come from. As long as you're in a calorie deficit, you will lose weight, you will lose fat. But it's really important for your relationship with food and your long-term kind of diet system. So your lifestyle diet, it's really important that you understand where those changes are coming from in your body. It's not because of a particular food, it's because of the calories that are in that food.
Absolutely. I think the cookie cutter plans can lead to, biases towards certain foods and also skew your judgment or knowledge on particular food groups, which can impact your relationship with food, or it can impact how your, life outside of a diet is run, which in my eyes, I don't particularly like. I think it can keep people back from really living a life that they enjoy and feeling in control of their nutrition.
Yeah, I think it often masks the truth, doesn't it? It masks the truth about energy balance and how that works. It's a fundamental law. Energy balance is a fundamental law, something that you can argue until the cows come home about how you get to a state of being in the calorie deficit, but you cannot argue based on the overwhelming masses of evidence we have that you you will lose weight when you're in a calorie deficit, and if you're not in a calorie deficit you can't lose weight. It's just been tested so many hundreds of thousands of times that we just can't deny that fact. It's so extensively studied. Everything when it comes to being on a diet plan, for weight loss in particular and for fat loss, will always be determined by the reduction of calories to get you into a calorie deficit.
And how you go about that can be done in many different ways, right? It
Yeah.
can be, but that's what the cookie cutter plans are set out to achieve most of the time.
And most of the time, cookie cutter plans are designed for people that are looking to lose weight or lose fat, I think is probably fair to say. I would go as far as to say most diet plans are undertaken with the purpose of losing fat. But as we'll get to later, there are a few different variations of that that can be used outside of fat loss goals. But yeah, another type of diet plan, which you'll see, is like a meal template. So a meal template is something that you would use for ideas. It could be something that you follow somebody on social media for. You copy their day of eating, for example. It could be something that you ask ChatGPT to provide for you. Depending on how much input you put into that, AI can give you a really decent personalized meal plan or meal template as well. But these meal templates basically just give you ideas of what to eat and can help to put together a meal structure which you can repeat, which is followable. It's not necessarily as restrictive. It doesn't necessarily have to be designed to remove particular food groups or particular food sources from your diet entirely. It's more a case of having an outline to follow, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it depends what level of meal template then, isn't it? Whether it's just a generic meal template or if it's a more personalised meal template. That would probably dictate how restricted or not restricted you find it, how helpful you find it for yourself. But they can be helpful because you don't know what you don't know about nutrition, right? So sometimes it can be simple swaps that you wouldn't even think of when you put a meal template together for yourself. Even if you have a decent knowledge of nutrition, there may be certain things that you're just not aware of. And sometimes having a meal template that's maybe a bit more bespoke to you, that can just open your mind to what possibilities are there to help you in a fat loss phase, for example. And that leads us on to the other type of diet plan, right? A more bespoke diet plan. And even these should only serve a certain purpose of your journey. And that introduces the other type of diet plan, a bespoke diet plan. And if we ever make a diet plan, this is what we do, right?
Yeah, so this is a very heavily personalized variation of a diet plan. It's most likely going to evolve and adapt over time. This is something that is often supported with regular guidance, with regular checkpoints and reviews, often provided by some sort of coach, nutritionist, or dietitian. It will probably change throughout time as your goals change, as your results are experienced. This is probably the best application, in my opinion, of having a diet plan rather than just having a template or a copy and paste program. This is where you're more likely to get the best results, and you're probably going to find this easier to stick to in terms of adherence as well.
I agree fully. Even then, Sean, diet plans will only be part of a journey, not the whole journey, because ultimately we shouldn't be relying on a diet plan for the rest of our lives.
Just before we go any further, I think it's important to note that most people providing diet plans on the internet are not actually qualified to be providing those diet plans. This is a little bit of a grey area, isn't it, Katie? Because it's not actually within the scope of practice of a personal trainer or even an online coach to be providing bespoke diet plans to individuals. I think, unfortunately, because of how accessible so many of these diet plans are now, we almost feel like we have a duty and an obligation as an online coach to provide forms of diet plan, because people will come into our space, we'll get clients that outright ask us, do you do diet plans? Would you be able to do me a diet plan? They're looking for that solution. They're looking for that particular element of coaching. And if you don't provide that, then that individual could then go and work with somebody else that could provide a copy and paste plan with no real consideration for this individual's needs, that won't support them through making those changes, that won't help to adapt their plan around their lifestyle, around their circumstances, around their events. So it's a real grey area, isn't it?
It is a grey area, and you're spot on by saying that it's not in a lot of people's scopes of practice to be able to even provide a full hog meal plan to follow. And let's be real, it goes bigger than just a meal plan, isn't it? Well, think they need a meal plan, and I'm not arguing that there's certain scenarios that it does help, but people think they need a meal plan and that will solve all of the problems, the issues that they've got going on. But it's not quite that simple. It needs coaching, it needs support, it needs adjustments as you go along, because there is never one size approach fits all. And even for yourself, you evolve, you change, you grow, your needs, your goals, your lifestyle, all of that changes as well as time goes on.
Yeah, pretty frequently. Like it can change day to day, it can change week to week.
And being able to understand nutrition and manage your nutrition around all of those is what's really going to empower you and allow you to get the most out of your nutrition for the rest of your life. That will never be solved by just having a diet plan and a diet plan alone. It's a difficult one to navigate. Like correctly you said, dietitians are really the only ones qualified to give diet plans out. But let's be real, every Tom, Dick and Harry who's an online coach seems to be giving them out at the moment.
Our opinions have changed many times on diet plans over the years, haven't they? Because there was a long time where I was absolutely against doing them because of the dependency that people can form on having a diet plan. I actually believe that for individuals to get the most out of their nutrition, there needs to be some form of education and autonomy based learning where they're able to learn how to manage things for themselves. People need to improve their ability to make the best decisions for them and to think and to plan. And I don't think that this is encouraged with a diet plan per se. But my opinion has changed a number of times, and I've gone full circle with this because I've seen how many people look for diet plans. I've seen where they can be useful in certain stages of individuals' journeys, like you mentioned, Katie. It's more a case of people are going to go and do this anyway. So if they're going to go and do it from somebody else that's potentially going to give them a really poor version of what you could provide them, then why not do something to a high standard that you know you can deliver well and you know that you're going to be doing it from a good place, and stop that person from having a few really poor experiences of using a diet plan or having coaching. Because eventually, like many of our members, people will come back around eventually to try and find a better solution for them when they've had bad experiences with all this other stuff. So we can just cut out all that negativity, cut out all that really harmful shoddy diet plans, copy and paste diet plans, terrible coaching advice, feeling like a failure all the time, on or off plan mentality, several years of wasted time. If we can cut out all of that, then I would be prepared to do something that I'm not entirely a strong believer in, if that makes sense.
There's a lot of what you said there that I fully agree with, and my view on them have changed a lot over the years as well. I think it's very important for individuals to have the education and the experience so that they can build that long-term autonomy, be able to make decisions for themselves and just feel in control, right? And for me, diet plans alone don't do that. And that's why I was against them for so long, because diet plans can't. They're not allowing you to make decisions. They're not allowing you to make mistakes. They don't give you that experience, which is so valuable for your learning and your development and your growth when it comes to your nutrition. It's not so much as a diet plan that serves a purpose. It's the template. It's a template that allows an individual to see how a day can be structured pretty well, including all the foods that they love, to hit the calorie target that allows them to meet the goal that they want to achieve. It's given that structure to build upon. So even now, I wouldn't say I'm still a full hog believer of diet plans. I'm a believer of a meal template, a structure that allows people to build from.
Yeah, really well explained. I don't think it's as simple as just saying yes or no. Do you need a diet plan? Yes or no. I think there are different stages and different time frames and different individuals that a diet plan could work well for. I think it's about understanding that individual's circumstances. What is the best course of action for them to be able to manage their nutrition more effectively for this period of time? And sometimes that best option is a diet plan temporarily. I still stand by the fact that there needs to be a level of personalization to it. And I still stand by the fact that it needs to be adaptable. But I think it's wrong to take a hard stance. And this is something that I've got better at doing over time as a coach, as I've got more experience, as I've acquired more knowledge. I tend to sit a little bit more in the middle ground. It used to be a hard no to diet plans, whereas now I'm more aligned with this may be a good option for this individual for this period of time, but I'm going to consider all the different options first, and then we'll go from there.
Absolutely. So let's chat about some of the benefits of having a diet plan then?
You mentioned the first one, didn't you? You mentioned about a clear structure and routine. I think that's the most obvious benefit, isn't it?
Yeah, because whenever you start something new, it's like you have all of these thoughts whirring around your mind, decisions to make. It can be quite overwhelming when you start something new. There's usually more than one variable to think about, and being able to have something streamlined for you can be really helpful.
Anything that we want to be successful at, we look for an example to follow. So if you have an example to follow, it automatically provides some peace of mind and some clarity that you're going to be doing the right thing. And like you mentioned, it's less decision making. Decision fatigue is very real. It's something which has a big impact on adherence to any sort of nutrition goal. Your brain isn't firing on all cylinders. All of that stuff combined with having to do all the thinking is just a recipe for people to just go, oh, fuck it, I can't be bothered. I'm just going to order a takeaway, or I'm just going to grab something on the way home from work, or I won't eat tonight. And then the next day, they can't stop eating all day. All these things can happen off the back of having to do too much thinking in the first place. So if you can remove that barrier straight away and eliminate some of the decision fatigue, that can sometimes help people be a lot more consistent with getting the result they want.
Absolutely. When you first start something, you're even thinking down to the details of, oh, how do I even get enough protein in this meal? Am I getting enough protein throughout the day? Am I getting enough fiber in my diet? Am I eating enough fruits, veggies, whatever? All of these questions and thoughts are there and they're very real. And they're things that you actively have to think about when you first start your nutrition journey. Whereas for me now, and I probably can speak for yourself here, Sean, and many of your clients who are way further into their journey, eating protein 3 times a day, for example, it doesn't even cross their mind. It's not even a consideration, a thought. It just happens naturally. Those things don't happen naturally at your start of your journey. So they are decisions you've got to actively make. And there's more of those that you've got to actively make that tire you out and can be a potential barrier. So it's having a diet plan or a template in place can help eliminate some of those decision fatigues in the start so that you can evolve with your nutrition plan. And as those habits become more autonomous, then you can evolve and do more of the thinking for yourself.
We would always encourage one step at a time, wouldn't we? And building up with one main goal at a time. So like if you've got absolutely zero autonomy on your nutrition, or let's say you've got zero structure at all, and you're going to try and build a structure from scratch, you might start off by just going one meal at a time. So what am I going to choose for my breakfast? What am I going to add as a protein source to my breakfast? Then you might look at protein with every meal for the day. Then you might have a look at adding a fiber source. That's before you've even got to the point of thinking about what you're going to be tracking. You might do that even before you started weighing everything out. You're literally just building from scratch here. Every week you're going to be improving, but think about how many weeks it's going to take you in total before you've got really accurate and precise nutrition and achieving potentially optimal or close to optimal rate of results. Let's say it's fat loss. It's going to take you a number of weeks to build up your nutrition structure and nutrition system. Yes, you might get results in the short term, but a diet plan might enable somebody to just go plug and play from day one. They get set up with a structure, they get set up with a routine. They can actually see how these meals get constructed. It's not like you're completely oblivious to what you're eating. You can look at your diet plan and go, interesting, I've noticed that it's got this with every meal for my lunch, or I've got this for my evening meal 3 or 4 times a week. What is the protein source in that meal? What is the fiber source in that meal? What's the carbohydrate source in that meal? So it can give you some basic understanding over how those meals are constructed. You will have to weigh your foods because otherwise that kind of defeats the object. No point giving somebody a diet plan to try and get them to lose weight and putting, a certain amount of carbohydrates into the diet. Let's say it's 200 grams of potato with a meal and 150 grams of chicken breast, for example. If somebody's serving up 300 grams of chicken breast and 400 grams of potato because they're not weighing it, then they were consuming twice as many calories. So that diet plan isn't going to get them very far for their fat loss goal. So you still have to weigh stuff, but it's not as dependent on the calorie tracking element. So this diet plans can actually work reasonably well with people that, for whatever reason, have a bee in their bonnet about calorie tracking.
It can. It also gives you a visual of how much protein or how much chicken equals the amount of protein that you need, for example, or what an actual serving of rice is for you. So it can help to start build up that knowledge without having the pressure of you making that decision initially. It can help you just build up that consistency from the start, right? And if you can build up that consistency, you start seeing the results, and that will help you buy in more to the process overall.
So there are advantages to using a diet plan, and being specific, these advantages are probably more noticeable when you have more of a bespoke diet plan for you, one that's been made specifically for you and is going to evolve with you over time. But there are also some disadvantages to the diet plans. So, what comes to mind for you, Katie, when we talk about the disadvantages to having a diet plan?
When a diet plan is your only method, your only go-to method, for me, they don't teach you enough about nutrition. They don't help you when it comes to understanding how to adapt things on the go. It doesn't help you to really know what's in the foods that you are choosing to eat and why you're choosing to have those at that particular time of day, or combined together throughout the day, for example. They don't leave a lot of room for education.
No, a lot of the time when you get handed a diet plan, you don't even get the diet plan explained to you. This is what this food has been chosen for. This is what that food has been chosen for. This provides a source of protein. This provides a source of fiber. It's just, here's your diet plan. Off you go. That's not really going to help individuals to gain any further knowledge or education about nutrition. I think this lack of real education and understanding leads to an over reliance on the diet plan to get them a result. It becomes the only way that an individual is able to see consistent progress with their goals. It becomes very narrow in terms of the options available to them if they've only ever had successful experiences with a diet plan.
It can breed that on plan, off plan mentality, can't it? I'm being good on plan, and then when I can't follow this diet plan, I'm off plan, I'm off track, I'm not doing the right thing.
We've gone into this so many times on previous podcasts, haven't we, about the on plan, off plan mentality and how detrimental that mindset can be. And we get it, because if you're following a diet plan and you don't eat something that's on the diet plan, then by nature of not eating what's on your diet plan, you are off plan. We see coaches provide this kind of nonsense off plan meal. You have a free off plan meal on this one occasion. And then clients will go off plan, they'll have an off plan meal of their choosing, and then they don't lose any weight. And they go back to the coach and they do their check in the next week. And the coach goes, yeah, but it's because you had that off plan meal. And then the client's like, well, hang on a minute. You told me to have an off plan meal. Yeah, but you had this as your off plan meal rather than this. So why are you telling me what to eat if you're telling me I can have an off plan meal, but then you're saying my off plan meal's too off plan? Like, oh, it's just absolute nonsense. This whole on plan, off plan mentality, it really, really grinds my gears.
Overcomplicate something that doesn't need to be that complicated, right? Just makes people think they're doing wrong by having a meal that perhaps is something they really enjoy having. It isn't their norm, but serves that fun pleasure element of their week. But then they think that it's bad and it's not serving their goals.
The off plan meal is just a crutch for coaches. I can't fucking coach. It's something that they can blame. If a client goes off the plan, they just blame the client for going off the plan.
Then provide no support and help and reassurance around the off plan.
The coach is not explaining that your weight is unlikely to go down every single week. There may be some weeks where your weight holds for a week or two without dropping, for example. They don't explain that one off plan meal is not going to account for the fact that the rest of the week that's been eaten to the letter on this diet plan should put the client in a large enough calorie deficit to see fat loss for that week. The one off plan meal is highly unlikely to be high enough in calories to completely eliminate the entire week of calorie deficit.
And even if it is, even if that one meal was, someone's done a real good job at consuming a very, 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 very large amount of calories, it's understanding that was an issue and that was a problem. Make sure you don't do that again.
It's really poor coaching, because the coach is basically exonerating themselves of any blame. If you set up a client with a diet plan correctly and that client sticks to the diet plan for the letter, then that diet plan should achieve them fat loss. By putting an off plan meal in there, it's like the insurance for that coach that if that client goes too far and has an off plan meal, then they just blame the off plan meal instead of the fact that maybe your diet plan hasn't been well constructed enough to get them in a large enough calorie deficit. Maybe you're not educating the client enough on what they need to be doing outside of this diet plan in terms of their activity levels. How are they going to manage this social event? How would you recommend they eat for this so-called off-plan meal that you're giving them? Because if you're just going to blame them for it, then at least give them some guidelines, some structure, some routine to follow. So what I would say by this is, if you're on a diet plan, yes, there's an element of you need to stick to the diet plan. You need to be on plan in order to get the maximum results you can from that plan. But be very, very, very careful of giving yourself a really hard talking to and guilt tripping yourself by going off plan, because yes, you should be sticking to plan altogether, but this is where your diet plan will fall flat on its face anyway, because you should be able to know what to do with your nutrition when you go off plan. When you have an off plan meal, when you stop using the diet plan, it's vitally important that you know what you need to do with your nutrition. And if you're only ever paying attention to your nutrition when you've got a diet plan to follow, you're never going to learn those skills.
Most diet plans can and will work if they are followed to the letter. And it's not usually the diet plan that doesn't work. It's whatever else is happening in a person's life that doesn't allow them to maybe stick to that diet plan, that could prevent them from getting results. And that's where coaching really comes into play.
There's far more reasons why somebody would deviate from the diet plan than why they would actually stick to the diet plan in the first place.
Hands down, hands down.
This is why just handing out a diet plan is an absolute load of nonsense, in my opinion. It needs to be coached. If you give somebody a diet plan, you need to coach them through that diet plan, because the person sticking to the diet plan is what's going to lead to the results. And that person's only going to stick to the diet plan if they're able to overcome those mental barriers and those mental challenges and those decisions which are making them deviate from the diet plan. Adherence is so important. And the best way to achieve greater adherence to anything is with the support of somebody else. And it's not always the nicest thing to have somebody challenge you and say to you, so what was the reason for why you couldn't stick to this meal for this day? Why wasn't there time set aside to prepare this meal? When you went to the supermarket on your lunch break and you hadn't prepped your food, what stopped you from picking up the chicken, the salad, and a piece of fruit? Why did you go straight to the hot deli counter and get the chips and the fried chicken and then a chocolate milkshake to follow? Why is your Tesco meal deal everything that's beige and not involving some healthy foods to go with it? It's not very comfortable to be challenged over these things, but that's what good coaching does. It challenges your decision making. It challenges the habits which are preventing you from getting better outcomes. If you just get handed a diet plan and not coached through that diet plan, then half of the effectiveness of the diet plan is lost, because you're human, you're going to make mistakes at times, you're going to want to do the opposite to what's on your plan at times. And if you're not a naturally really disciplined, really regimented and restricted person, comfortable with having high levels of restriction, comfortable with maintaining your discipline under pressure, then there's a good chance you're going to deviate from that diet plan at some point. It doesn't matter what's written on the bloody page in front of you.
You could literally have a gold standard perfect diet plan. That doesn't mean that you're going to follow it through. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're a failure because you wouldn't stick to a diet plan. Diet plans aren't bulletproof. They are not bulletproof. You're a human. You're a human being with day-to-day responsibility, day-to-day emotions that are going to change. How you navigate that is going to determine whether you're adherent or not.
So that's the human error component, and that really does need to be taken into consideration. But there are also some practical logistical issues that come with having to follow a diet plan. Katie's mentioned about how day-to-day life doesn't always look the same for people and how it changes. And a diet plan just assumes that everything is going to be the same day to day, week to week. All your weekends are going to look the same. How long do you need to follow a diet plan for to get a result? In most cases, it's not going to be achieved just within a couple of short weeks. It's probably going to be a few months, 2, maybe 3 months. Are you honestly telling me that every weekend is going to look the same for you for 2, 3 months? And that it's going to be easy to follow that set structure and that set routine for 2 to 3 months. Remove all the emotional part of it. Remove the fact that you're going to get bored with some meals. Remove the fact that it's going to feel quite repetitive. Just focus on the practical side of things. You're meal prepping every day. You've got to make sure you've got enough room in the fridge around all your family's food that's also in the fridge. You're probably going to be batch cooking on the weekends. Are you telling me that this is possible every single week for as many months as required to get this fat loss result?
How many occasions does our day ever really go to plan? And I think that's where having a rigid diet plan can really hinder your progress and adherence, because it's another thing that makes you feel like you failed because things haven't gone perfectly to plan.
Just having a diet plan is not enough, in my opinion. It just isn't enough. Learning the language of nutrition requires more than just following what's on a piece of paper.
You wouldn't expect to become an expert in your field or a CEO in a business without getting the experience and learning the trade and learning the role. It's the same with nutrition. You can't have that true understanding without exposing yourself to the experience of it, learning about it, understanding it.
We have used diet plans, and we do use diet plans with our members, and we've used them ourselves as well. So under what circumstances would a diet plan be a good option for someone?
First one that comes to mind for me is particularly with fat loss goals, and in particular, more aggressive approaches, because there's not much room for error or margin to play with, right? Because calories are already pretty low, quite restricted, and being able to learn and understand how you can get the most out of the calories you've got available is key for adherence. So I think having that template or structure in place to start with is a good move.
I agree. And I think it makes sense for a more aggressive approach, because the key to making a more aggressive approach work is getting the best possible results in the shortest time frame possible. The fact that it's not a very long time frame means that the practical issues we spoke about previously aren't as much of an issue because this fat loss phase is not going to last as long when it's as aggressive. So instead of having to do 8 to 12 weeks back to back of following a diet plan, you will do 3 weeks, then have a break. You may have a plan for your break week or for your refeed days, but ultimately it's 3 weeks of following a set structure and a set plan. And if you're working with coaches like myself and Katie for those 3 weeks, then you're not just following a diet plan, you'll also learn how you can adapt certain meals and change certain things as you go as well. So it's not just eat the same things on repeat. But a lot of our members will find that they do eat the same things on repeat just because it works well for them, because they enjoy the food, because they settle into it, and because we've constructed these diet plans based on what they like in the first place, not just on what social media thinks they should eat or what ChatGPT thinks they should eat. But for a specific time frame or for a very specific result, diet plans can really help to create a consistent pattern.
Which can help accelerate those results for that specific time frame or specific result, right? It's touched upon potentially having them for a diet break or refeed days, for example. Again, if you've never done a diet break before, if you've never done a refeed day before, it can be quite overwhelming trying to get all of your nutrition to tally up to what you needed to tally up to. So having that template and example in place can allow you to plug and play.
I think it can work really well for scatterbrained individuals. If you've got all this stuff going on that just feels like it's absolute chaos, having a diet plan to follow for your nutrition can just remove a lot of the decision fatigue that comes with that and just allow you to still achieve something from your results and still maintain a decent level of nutrition, so your diet's healthy on a week-to-week basis. So I think that there are some cases for diet plans helping out with practical issues as well. It's just they're very specific circumstances. They're not like a one size fits all approach to having a diet plan.
I agree. Following a diet plan may not be the most optimal approach. It may be if it's bespoke for you, but it may not be the optimal approach. But what would be the alternative right now with everything going on and my brain really scatty? What would be the alternative of me not following a diet plan per se? Well, it could be the complete bloody opposite, right? And you could spiral into negative habits, ways of living that you just don't want. So sometimes it's actually looking at what's in front of you and going, what would actually just allow me to steady the ship here? And sometimes they can serve for that purpose too.
I think in those circumstances, I think having a diet plan that's got a tiny bit more flexibility built in would probably be more optimal for that individual. So rather than have something really rigid, you must eat this meal on this particular day at this particular time kind of thing.
Agreed.
It would be more a case of, right, these are a few options for food choices for this meal. These are a few options for food choices for this meal. Choose between this protein source, or this protein source. Choose between this carb, this carb, this carb. So you're narrowing down the options. It's still a form of template. It's still a form of diet plan, but it's not, you have to have salmon, broccoli and new potatoes on Thursday night at 6 p.m. every single Thursday.
I agree fully. I think there's levels to templates and levels to diet plans as well, depending on the circumstance and what's needed at that time of a particular person's life. I think they can be really helpful when an individual, perhaps in their mind, is sticking to everything they need to stick to drive a fat loss result, for example. They think they're tracking everything accurately. They think they're, weighing portion sizes correctly. They adamant they're in a calorie deficit, but they're still not losing weight. Now, with full confidence, we know that you are not in a calorie deficit if you're not losing body fat, right? So how can you figure out what's not working, what's going wrong, where these extra calories are coming from? Sometimes stripping it right back, following something a little bit more rigid, like a diet plan for a couple of days, maybe up to a week, will allow you to realize, actually, maybe this is what I've been over-consuming. Maybe this is where the extra calories are coming from. And also kind of just rebuild your trust in the process of eating in a calorie deficit does drive fat loss. Because we all can get a little bit complacent with things over time, especially when things are working. So sometimes then stripping it right back, following a diet plan for a couple of days or a week and go, okay, this is what I need to cut out and this is what I need to carry on with.
Yeah, I think it would be an eye-opener to some people because by being on a diet plan, as we mentioned, you will need to start weighing your foods out. A lot of individuals will go through periods where they stop accurately weighing their food because they think that they've gained the skill to be able to eyeball it. Results may not happen for them. They might end up having a weight plateau for a number of weeks and not seeing any changes. They're putting in the work. They're thinking, right, well, why aren't I getting what I want out of this? And I say weight plateau, I'm assuming that this is fat loss because I think the diet plans serve the fat loss goal better. But this could also be a case that you're following a diet plan for your first week of a building phase or your first month of a building phase where you're trying to make sure you're getting enough calories. So weighing those foods, make sure that you're accurate with your nutrition. And I've had members message me where they've started weighing out their portion size and they've been like, my God, yeah, I was definitely overeating that.
It's happened so many times, hasn't it? It's a right light bulb moment. It's like, oh, shit.
Yeah. So yeah, it is. It's like the diet plan, 15 grams of peanut butter. Oh,
That 50-gram portion I've been having
yeah.
may have something to do with the fact I'm not losing body fat.
It's a real eye opener, and sometimes it can help to ground you back to your portion sizes and making sure you're accounting for everything you're eating.
There's nothing more frustrating, is it, than being mentally in a calorie deficit, but not actually physically in a calorie deficit, not getting the results you want.
If you're gonna try and get yourself in a calorie deficit, then just do it properly. Just do it properly. Just get nutrition nailed properly, because it's just torture to think that you're going to get the result that you're not going to get because you're not doing the actions which you need to do to get it. Like, that's such a detrimental place to be in.
Hands down, hands down. And nutrition is, in my opinion, the best way to create that calorie deficit is to control your nutritional intake.
Final, very nuanced point about where diet plans can be useful, Katie. Performance athletes.
Performance athletes may not have wide knowledge of nutrition and what they need at certain times of the day around their training, around the competition, wherever it may be. And their nutrition may look very different on their non-training days to their training days, for example. So perhaps having some diet plans or a what good looks
Yeah,
template can help that.
the goal is not necessarily for body composition in those cases. The goal is more a case of, am I fueling my body effectively within certain ranges? I think there can be a little bit more room for flexibility to some extent with performance athletes in terms of like the foods that they will choose to eat, and there's less concern about my weight hasn't gone down this week. They're more concerned with, am I getting the best possible outcome that I can from my training and from my competition.
Yeah, am I
So
able to perform to the best of my ability? And nutrition plays a big part in that.
we've discussed many of the issues and the disadvantages with diet plans. Are there any kind of extended issues that a lot of people will overlook when it comes to following a diet plan, Katie?
I think for me, it's that they shouldn't be a long-term strategy.
Couldn't agree more.
They can work well, as we discussed, in certain situations for certain time frames, but they are never and should never be a long-term strategy. Life does not work in a perfect plan. And if they're relied on for too long, you're going to lack autonomy with nutrition. You're not going to build up that kind of natural thought process that just happens on a daily basis because it's not natural to you. What's natural is to follow a plan, not to naturally just make those choices. And that's not built up if you follow a diet plan for too long.
Something that we heavily promote and will never stop promoting is that your nutrition and what you choose to eat is your choice and nobody else's. It's entirely your choice. Nothing controls what you put in your mouth except for you. You have full control over it. As much as you think you don't, as much as people will give themselves this false identity, I can't control myself when I have chocolate. I can't control myself because I got a sweet tooth. It is nonsense. It's difficult to stop eating that stuff because you really enjoy it, because you get a really good pleasure signal from it, but you can stop yourself. You can control it. Relinquishing control is what keeps you stuck. Regaining control, empowering yourself, not buying into the narrative that you can't control it, is the thing that changes it, is the thing which allows you to change your outcome.
What you tell yourself is very important, isn't it? It's very, very important. So be careful of the language that you are using to describe the actions that you're performing.
And do you know how you build confidence with controlling your diet? It's by being faced with those decisions, being faced with those choices, and feeling like you're making the right choice, feeling like you're making the right decision.
For you, not for everyone around you, for yourself.
And just to be absolutely crystal clear, because I don't want anyone to listen to this and get the wrong end of the stick, we have encouraged members recently to go on non-tracking weekends when they've been for weekends away, because they've tracked every single weekend away for a number of years. They've stressed about, how am I going to track this? It's not going to be quite right. Can I try and get it in the right ballpark? And they've done that because they've been really keen to get a very particular result, and they wanted to maintain the results that they've achieved with their body composition change. But then we have encouraged them to remove the calorie tracking element because it's acting like a crutch for them. It's acting like a safety blanket. It's something that they're becoming over-reliant on. We want them to ground themselves and go back to basics and understand that your choices with nutrition should not be determined by what's on a piece of paper or what's on an app. Your choices with nutrition should be determined by your knowledge, your understanding of your nutrition, how it makes you feel, and the outcome that you know it's going to create.
It's choosing the behaviours that you are not just comfortable with, because you're not always comfortable with them, but choosing the behaviours that really align with the person that you want to be. And the person you want to hold yourself accountable to being. That doesn't happen if you're fully reliant on a tool that adds up your calories for you, because you're not then zooming out to the bigger picture and understanding the first point of call is a decision that you make over the food and drink that you're consuming. The calorie tracker is just there to tally that up for you. So it's taking that step back, looking at your decisions, your behaviours. You're not going to change these overnight and you're not going to get them right every time. But the more and more you expose yourself to making the right choice for yourself in that moment, the more confident you will get, the more you believe in yourself to make the right decision for yourself. That's not to be perfect forever, because perfect does not exist. It does not exist. But it's giving yourself that confidence to do what's right for you and follow the behaviours that are right for you most of the time.
It's exactly that. Part of the process is making a decision, making a choice, and accepting that this could go a good way or a bad way. Accepting that you may have some decisions that you regret shortly after, a couple of days later, in a few weeks' time. That's all part of learning. That's all part of life. I think people are so caught up in trying to avoid making mistakes in the first place that they end up so reliant and so rigid that they inevitably end up just giving up and making mistakes.
Probably worse mistakes with worse consequences than if they were just to balls up one thing one time and go, "Do you know what, that didn't quite work for me. I'm not going to do that again next time."
Yeah, I'm going to say something quite bold here. When people screw up when they come off the diet plan and they think I'm rubbish when I'm not on a diet plan, the problem is because you've been on a diet plan. The reason for why you do not know how to maintain your results or continue to get better results when you get off a diet plan is because you become over reliant on a diet plan. You haven't learned the skills. You haven't learned how to handle the mistakes emotionally. You haven't learned how to recover from a setback, how to analyze and review what went wrong, and to put a different strategy or method or decision in place for the future. Because your only option is, I'll just go back to eating what's on my diet plan. And I hate to say it, but that's just not good enough for an entire lifetime of eating food.
And if you were to pick your ideal scenario and think about how you would like your ideal life to look like when it comes to nutrition, it's not a headache for me every day. I want to feel like it's just easy to make a choice on whether I have a dessert that day or not. I want to be able to have flexibility to enjoy the things I want, as well as making sure that I am, majority of the time, getting the nutrition I need in my diet. Now, for some, that might feel overwhelming right now, but that for me is the ideal place that I wanted to get to. I didn't want to be reliant on a diet plan, because that doesn't empower me. That doesn't make me feel like I'm in control of my life and my decisions and how I want to live my life. That would make me feel chained, stuck. That's not free. That's not life. That's not living. So have a think about where would you ideally like to be? What identity do you want for yourself? And then it's working and taking steps to build up to that person that you want to be. And everyone's idea of being comfortable, in control and competent with nutrition might be slightly different. And that's okay too.
What I have learned through my coaching over time is that you start where you're at and you choose the best option for where you're at, and you look to develop that over time. Each time you take that step outside your comfort zone, you learn practical skills and you learn emotional skills. And if you keep banking those experiences, then it becomes easier to have the confidence in stepping outside your comfort zone again in the future. Now, you can always argue, well, if it ain't broken, then you don't need to fix it. So if it's working for you, then keep going. But what works for you now is likely not going to work for you at some point in the future. And this is exactly the same with how diet plans work. They will work, and they do work for a period, but they won't work forever. And you have to be prepared to take the next step in your journey to try and work out what to do with your diet and what to do with your nutrition once this diet plan comes to an end, because it should come to an end and it will come to an end. So what's next?
Right? It'll always come to an end, whether it's a good ending or a bad ending, it's going to come to an end because there will be a roadblock somewhere. So it's up to you to decide whether that roadblock is going to bash out the way and you keep progressing, or that roadblock just stops your journey there and you end up going backwards.
Let's avoid these roadblocks then. When implemented correctly, you don't run into as many roadblocks with a diet plan.
They're there for a specific purpose, for a specific time frame. And when they're part of a longer term strategy, you've always got confidence that there's something coming up next to support you with the next leg of the journey.
So how do we implement diet plans as part of a long-term strategy? How do we do it ourselves? How do we do it for our clients?
We've used diet plans for various different parts of the journey, whether that's fat loss, a diet break, refeeds, longer term ballast building, but they begin as templates of diet plans, right? There's that structure to take away some of that decision fatigue and give people what a good or an effective nutritional day looks like. But they're there then to allow them allow clients to transition away from them over time.
We make that intention quite clear from the off, don't we? Here is your diet plan, but must read this first. This is not a long-term strategy. Like, we make that intention very clear that the purpose of this is to get started, is to get results in a specific time frame, but we're going to support you through transitioning away from this and taking more ownership over this yourself. There's always education throughout that period of them following a diet plan, so that when they come to the end of that, they're then prepared to start managing their own nutrition, obviously with guidelines, obviously with coaching and guidance, but they've had some practice of doing it, and they're building that skill set throughout the period of following the diet plan.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. I don't think the words have ever come out of my mouth that you must follow this hard and fast and not deviate from it at all. Um, one thing I will say is some individuals will utilize that diet plan and template and structure a little bit longer than some individuals, and that's okay. It's when it's right for you to play about with a little bit more freedom and flexibility with your choices, and when perhaps you need a little bit more support for longer, that's absolutely okay. But it's having that support and education around it that is really, really important.
I know I recommend to track alongside the diet plan as well, because I think the next step to coming off a diet plan, if you want to continue with the same level of precision and accuracy, but get more control yourself, is going to be calorie tracking. So for me, if that's the natural progression of a client's journey with nutrition, I want them to start that very early on. It's 20 times easier if you've got a diet plan to just plug that diet plan into your tracker. One of the most underrated qualities of having a nutrition tracker is that you can easily see what's in those foods when you're putting them in the tracker. It gives you that instant feedback and instant level of awareness. Like, how much protein is in every meal? How much fiber is in every meal? If you want to go to the minutiae of looking at micronutrients and how much iron you get in per day and things like that, you can do that. But it just allows you to be able to look at your diet with a little bit more of a zoomed in lens and understand what those foods are actually providing you with in terms of nutritional value. So I encourage that tracking alongside the diet plan so that you start becoming more aware to that stuff, so that looking at your nutrition tracker isn't such a head stress. You can't get it wrong because you're just putting in what's in the blooming diet plan, but at least it gives you some experience.
And it just allows your brain to get used to what you're seeing visually. Because when you start something new, like it's all like it's like another language sometimes, isn't it? And I think if you can get used to a process and structure with support that's made easier, then when you do need to do it yourself, it's not quite as scary or overwhelming. And I still am a believer that calorie tracking, even for a short period, can provide people with so much benefit. Understanding their habits, what's in the foods they're eating, brings awareness to what they're currently doing. Because without that, it's very difficult to change what you're doing because you don't know what to change, right?
If an individual has used a diet plan to help them achieve a result in a specific time frame, there is a risk of them adopting the on or off plan mindset with their nutrition beyond the diet plan itself, to the point where all the foods that are on the diet plan are approved foods and acceptable foods, and anything that's not on that diet plan then is deemed to be an off plan food. So one of the ways in which you can mitigate some of that risk and prevent that quite detrimental thinking is to teach an individual to track their off plan meals or off plan foods. Again, going back to what you said, Katie, about the awareness of what's in your calorie tracker and becoming more comfortable with seeing it. Putting that food in the tracker, seeing what the calorie value is, seeing what the protein value is, fiber, how many grams of carbs and fats. It just allows you to have a bit more awareness of what that food looks like. So you can see it as part of an overall day of nutrition. You can see it as part of an overall week of nutrition. A lot of the time, when you're looking at a diet plan, these are my approved foods, you throw a pizza into a mix on the Sunday, the pizza stands out because it's being compared against all the other meals that have been put on your tracker for results. But when you start thinking about it in terms of calorie content, the pizza that you have on a Saturday night, for example, in the context of all the other calories that you've consumed for the week, is likely not going to have a huge impact on which direction your body composition goes. It's probably not, as long as you're accurate with the rest of it, it's not going to make that much of a difference.
You can actually remove that guilty feeling then and the bad connotation that comes with having foods that aren't part of your plan, for example. And without that awareness, as you were saying, John, how can you really make a decision on what's right or wrong for you? It's not always a bad thing to have that awareness of the foods, that what's in the foods that perhaps aren't quite as nutritious or healthy, because it allows you to go, well, yeah, that's fine. I'm okay. I'm accepting today that it's not my most nutritious choice, but it's one day of my week or one meal in my week. Like, it's absolutely fine.
Yeah. It actually enables you to be more flexible. And that's what we want these so-called off-plan meals or cheat meals or whatever,
Oh God, I hate
what,
that word.
whatever to people.
Cheat meals.
I know. Just makes me cringe.
Oh, I just hate it. I just hate. I even used to use it, many years ago with myself. Oh, cheat meal. What am I doing?
No, I used to have a cheat day. Can you imagine how many calories I would be able to consume on a cheat day, Katie?
Oh, it'd be insane. It'd be ridiculous. I could
But the
not.
irony was, I would say, "Oh, I'm having a cheat day today," and my first 3 meals of the cheat day would look exactly the same as every other thing, and then it'd be like a massive takeaway or something in the evening.
Mm. Oh,
But yeah, cheat meals, cheat days. The point is, right, that it allows you to remove so much of the strain and the guilt from doing those things. If you're gonna be a lunatic with your nutrition and eat completely freely and eat massive amounts of unhealthy stuff. It doesn't matter whether you've got a diet plan. Doesn't matter whether you calorie track it. None of that matters. Doesn't matter what label you put on it, cheat meal, off-plan meal, whatever the hell you want to call it. That's still a really negative habit for your health. It's not a good idea to binge eat stuff that's really unhealthy. Consume thousands of calories in one go. But at least if you have some awareness of what's going in, it might trigger your brain in those moments where you're potentially at risk of doing that to go, actually, I'm not going to do that because I know that consuming this many calories in one go is going to cancel out a lot of the hard work that I've done in the week. It's going to delay the result that I want for fat loss, or it's going to make me gain more fat than I want to gain if I'm trying to build muscle. Yeah. So I do think that awareness sometimes is a good thing. And I think that if you are going to certain meals, certain occasions, have some less healthy food, I think in the early stages of getting used to having those things in your diet again after being on something like a diet plan, tracking them helps you to make that transition a little bit easier. It helps to provide at least some sort of guidelines so that you can have a bit, but not too much. Don't go too far with it.
allows you to have a balanced measure approach to your decision, doesn't it? If you only ever follow a diet plan, then that's the only awareness that you have. It's the only measure that you have of success or failure. You're not allowing yourself to get other balanced measure approaches in your mind. So how can you weigh up and make a more informed decision for yourself if you've never had exposure to something different?
No.
You just can't. So,
You don't always want to be on a diet plan or off a diet plan, but essentially, if you don't give yourself any other options, then that's all you're doing.
that's all you know. That's all you know. That's not how life should be lived. I don't think does anyone ever feel happy and truly confident in themselves?
I've never had anybody once ever tell me, and I've worked with a lot of people, I speak to a lot of people about their nutrition. Even when I'm just in the gym, people will come up to me and start talking to me about their diet, their training, right? That's how this works. I have had so many conversations and nobody has ever said to me, I love being on a diet plan for 8 to 12 weeks, getting really good results, and then really enjoy going completely off the rails, not being on a diet plan, giving my nutrition zero thought, and just seeing where I end up.
No.
I've never had anybody tell me that they enjoy that approach. But I tell you what, I have had hundreds of people that have said to me, if only I could just stick to the plan forever. If only, like, if only I didn't screw it up. I wish I didn't screw it up every time I come off the plan. And that says it all to me. That says it all. If you've rocked a diet plan and it's worked well for you, then you've always got the option to go back to it at some point, right? I think you mentioned this, Katie, didn't you, about one of your members that use this as a good way to reset.
Yeah, Karen. She kind of uses it as a recalibration tool. And Karen's nutrition is never really that far away from being pretty solid and near optimal all the time, right? But there, life happens sometimes. Stress is getting in the way. She's still fairly consistent with nutrition. It was decent standard, but there were some elements that might have slipped, and she wasn't too happy with those. And rather than getting really, really stressed and overwhelmed by it, she opted to just recalibrate by utilising a meal template. She just recalibrates with that for a couple of days, maybe a week, and all her stats are flying back up the roof again. And then she keeps up the momentum consistency. Doesn't have to follow that every day, every week, all the time. It's just that recalibration to get that momentum back going in the right direction.
Yeah. So you feel yourself slipping a little bit. You're worried that you're losing a bit of structure and routine. That can then lead to a whole host of other emotional issues, which could lead to poor decisions with nutrition in future. Instead, Karen's really smart. She goes, right, I've got a lot of different things going on right now. I can feel myself getting close to that place where I'm going to drift. So she locks in for a few days on a little bit more of a structured diet plan, then feels like she's accomplishing what she needs to accomplish, builds her confidence, feels better about herself. She can then track and have a little bit more flexibility because she feels in a better frame of mind to be able to do that.
We're all going to drift at some point. Like, you're humans, it's in your nature. I think trying to or telling yourself that you're not going to drift is setting yourself up for an expectation that's just not realistic. What's important is to nip that drift in the bud rather than allowing that drift to take over and make you feel like a failure.
Let me ask you a question, Katie. Since you've gained all the skills that you've acquired over the years with nutrition, how many times have you drifted over last 6 months, last 12 months, last few years? How many times have you actually drifted?
Very few.
None.
Is there really none?
For longer than what? A week, 2 weeks? I'm not imagining you've just drifted a little bit too far away from the shore. You're cast away like Tom Hanks in the middle of the ocean on a raft somewhere. So that's what really happens when people drift. You haven't had that in years.
No, I haven't. I've got to be honest, my nutrition I don't feel is a stress at all for me anymore. And that was very different years and years ago. But now it's not. I'm very comfortable and confident in my choices in every situation I'm in, every scenario I'm in. I'm confident and comfortable. There will be days and elements I won't track, albeit right now that's not many because of the goals that I've got that are very specific.
There's a choice.
But it's a choice. And even when I'm in those moments, the choices that I make are still aligned to what I want in that moment. It's just I haven't tracked because it's maybe a meal out that I want to just enjoy for what it is.
You still make a choice sometimes not to track because
Yeah.
that's also your choice. I'm the same. I can't remember the last time my nutrition has drifted. I can't remember the last time I've lost focus. I haven't had a planned period of not tracking. Even my so-called off-plan days are planned off-plan.
It's all part of the plan. It's not on plan, off plan. It's all part of your plan.
I want people to realize that you can have that too. You can get to that place too. We weren't in that place earlier on in our training careers, in our lives, but we are now. And it feels really damn good. It feels really, really good to be in that place. But you have to go through each stage of the process to be able to get there.
You've got to earn it, I guess, haven't you? You've got to earn
Yeah.
that badge of honour because you don't get there from not exposing yourself to the difficult situation. I mean, you won't get there by doing the same thing over and over and over again because you're not going to get a different end result. But it is possible to get there. It is possible to get to a place where nutrition doesn't have to stress you out every day of your life.
No, it should always work with you to some capacity, regardless of what you're doing, whatever situation you're in, whatever your goals are. That's the level of autonomy that you're capable of getting to. And when you get there, that can stay there for life. The point is, you need to know when or where to use diet plans at certain stages of your journey. They do have value. They do have a purpose. They can create better results for a short period of time, but they're not the be all end all.
The goal is knowing when or where to use them.
As we have said many times on this podcast, many of our members have benefited from using example meal templates that we put together when building out their own diet plans or when transitioning from using a diet plan into normal nutrition tracking. If you'd like to take advantage of some of the behind the scenes resources we use to help teach members what to eat in order to fuel themselves effectively whilst losing body fat, maintaining body fat results, or whilst building muscle, then pop us a message on Instagram, tell us a bit about your goals, and we'll send you a free resource that suits your needs the most. Because as we've said many times on this podcast, the more personalized your template is to your current needs, the more likely it's going to lead to success.
Absolutely. Spot on. Honestly, pop into our DMs. Be more than happy to chat about that and send something over your way.
Look, you never get anything free in life, so take advantage of it while you can, eh?
Yeah, if you don't ask, you don't get. That's what I always say. But that is all for today's episode on diet plans. Next week, we'll be back with a game-changing episode. One I'm really, really excited about, actually. We're going to talk about the get out of fat loss plan, how to get back to higher calories again without regaining loads of body fat, and how to stay lean for longer periods of time whilst building muscle.
Tune in to hear the exact methods we've used to help members spend anywhere from 4 to 9 months without needing a fat loss phase. That's not an episode you're going to want to miss. See you all next time. Thank you for listening.